Hey, what's up, guys? This is Monacle Poker. Today's Saturday, and we're getting ready to go down to the South Point for the $150 stamina tournament. This is the tournament that has the 30-minute levels, 20,000 starting stack. The levels go up very, very slowly. As far as the blinds start out at like 50. Let's see here. What do they do? They do 100, 100, 100, 200, 100, 300, 100, 300 with the 300 ante. Big blind ante structure, 200, 400, 300, 600. Actually, I think it goes from 2-4 to 250, 500. So it's very, very slow structure. You get an incredible amount of play. You also get to play against a wide variety of players. Some that are, have a lot of skill. Some, a majority that have very, very little skill. And so you get a lot of stuff thrown at you in a lot of different ways that is going to keep you on your toes and keep you on your mental game and trying to dodge all these landmines about what's being thrown at you. You're going to see a lot of strange lines taken, and I feel like it really helps me study what's happening in hands and how people are responding to different things. I can try a lot of different tactics because you have you're so deep in this tournament for such a long time. The rebuy period lasts through 8 levels, so it starts at 2 p.m. Rebuys end after the break. It happens right about 6 p.m. So you get a lot of play. Anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to show you guys is that I'm going to try to, I know you guys want to see like more hand histories and hand breakdowns, things like that. And I got a tool that I thought might help with that. And so I got this little guy here. And this is a cool little thing, but it's kind of tough to use. I haven't got it mastered yet. But this is a pocket pen kind of thing. And it's got a little camera in it right there. And then so I'm going to use that to try to record some hands so I can actually show you like whole cards. The trick is trying to show the whole cards and show the board, which I've been struggling with. But I'm going to try to work on that today a little bit and see if I can get some capturable moments for the video. So we're going to go down there, play in the tournament. They call it the stamina because you only get a 5-minute break every 4 levels. So there's no like 15, 20-minute break, which I really like. I mean, like if you need to go to the bathroom's right there. You can wait till you're in a good spot, get up, go to the bathroom. Usually I don't even miss a hand. So I don't really like going on the breaks and like trying to, spend my 15, 20 minutes walking around the casino. It's nice to stretch the legs. I get that. But the 5-minute breaks are plenty long enough to take a jaunt around the casino, get back in your seat and get back to action. I like when the action's pretty consistent and steady. Anyway, so I'm going to try to bring you some content from this, and we'll check in with you guys later. With the blinds at 25.50, it's early in the tournament. I raise in the cutoff to 200 with King 4 suited and spades. Only the button calls the small and the big fold. The flop comes King of diamonds, Queen of hearts, 4 clubs. I continue bet for 300 and the button calls. The turn is a 7 of clubs. I bet 500. The button raises to 1200 and I call. The river is the Jack of spades. I should have probably checked here with the button's aggression on the turn. And so I bet 1,500 and the button decides to raise to 4,000. Now the button is an older gentleman. He's probably a good 20 to 30 years older than I am. I'm in my 40s. I've played with this guy many times before. And in this spot, I felt like I probably should have just laid the hand down. Like, I know he's not doing this. I don't think that he's doing this with a broken flush draw. He could have king, queen that he decided to check the flop. But I felt probably it was more realistic that he had some form of set. I did put in the call, and he shows 7-7. This was, like I said, early in the tournament. We had 20,000 starting stack. I just basically at this point wanted to just verify that my read was on. I wanted to make sure that things were happening in the hand the way that I thought they were. So I wasn't too afraid of losing the 4,000. I feel like I have pretty good control in these tournaments, and that's one of the reasons why I raised it up with King 4 suited, as I really wanted to kind of take control early. Okay, so we just got done out to South Point. It's about midnight. We played the Stamina, $150 buy-in. This is my buddy Scott, this guy, and my brother Adam, who came down to Vegas to visit with me. We all jumped in this tournament. We finished this tournament 1, 2, we put up the 2, there you go, and 3. Fuck, that's awesome.
It's a good night.
It's a good night. All right, so I'll check in with you a little later. We'll talk about some stuff that happened. I got some hands to show you. All right, so I wanted to talk to you about something that happened in the tournament. It's happened before. Actually, I caught the floor making the mistake. They were doing a color up. This was in the past, where they had mistakenly taken more chips off my stack during the chip up. And I caught him and said, whoa, you're counting these chips wrong. They counted, the pinks have a $5,000 value, and they were counting them for 1,000 or whatever. Anyway, so it would have been a huge thing, and I caught him and made it right before he left, because in this Stamina tournament, you only get a 5-minute break. So you run out, grab something to drink, run to the bathroom. By the time you get back, game's just about ready to get going again. So you have a tendency to kind of bolt right when the break hits. And then if you're in a hand, when the round timer expires, it automatically starts counting into the break time. So depending on how long that hand lasts, you may only have a few minutes to go and get back. This is more compounded when they're going to do a chip up, whenever they're going to race off like the $25 chips or the $100 chips or whatever. Well, in this tournament, we were chipping up the greens, which were a 100 value chip, and they chipped up the 500 value chip at the same time. However, they didn't take into account that they were going to need the 500 chip later on another level. Anyway, so I had finished the hand. The round was over. We went on break. I ran to the bathroom, came back, and I knew that when I had left, I had approximately about 250,000 in chips. When I came back from the break, I had like 212,000 sitting there, and my chips had obviously been messed with. And I came back, and I immediately saw that the chips were like laid out in front of my, there was a handful of chips laid out in front of my chips. And I said, who's messing with my chips or whatever? And the dealer basically was like, I did. You've got a problem with it, take it up with the floor or whatever, And I was like, no, really, what's going on, and I know we had a chip up, but what happened here? And they're like, oh, well, they took some, they colored up some of the blue and, to shorten the stacks down a little bit. And they colored up the greens and the yellows, which were the 100s and the 500 chips. I said, well, it looks like I got a lot less chips here. I think I had more chips when I left. And And the dealer's like, no, no, no. I watched it. I was paying attention. I watched it. I know it was right. And then I was kind of like, looking around and kind of thinking back to like, could I have counted wrong, before I left, and maybe did I lose some money right before break, something along those lines. And at this point in the tournament, we were down to like, I want to say we were down to like 6 players. We were 2 away from the money. And I was, I had a big chip lead at this point. But anyway, so it kind of got washed out. It kind of just we kind of proceeded on. That's kind of one of my areas of weakness, is like I kind of start immediately thinking, well, it must have been my mistake. I did a visual count of like the chips around the table, and then looked at how many chips were in play in the tournament, and it looked like it was short there as well. However, the dealer especially, which I know, I probably should have halted action, called the floor, came over, counted down the chips, said, this is what I think happened. They could have gone to the camera if they needed to. But, you kind of get this feel like, they kind of have this vibe about them, like, oh, it's a $150 buy-in. You're playing for $1,200 for first place. It's not that big a deal, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? That stuff adds up, and it is kind of important. Anyway, I ended up winning the tournament anyway. But that's not really the point. Anyway, so what I'm getting to is at the end, when I won the tournament, I racked up all the chips and gave them a count, and the chips were 40,000 chips light. There was supposed to be 520,000 chips in play, and I had 481,000 chips. So I did go ahead and talk to the floor, let them know, hey, this is what I think happened. This is what I believe happened. And the floor, was apologetic about it, and basically was like, hey, if this ever happens again, make sure that you come get me, and we'll investigate. And my camera's doing stuff. My gimbal's acting all crazy again. Jeez, this thing, I don't know. I'm just learning this gimbal, and I gotta figure it out. But anyway, so that was weird. So with talking with my buddy Scott and talking about how this has happened before, and how to proceed properly in the future, we kind of came up with a consensus on it's a tip for all the younger players out there, and people who are newer to the game and stuff like that. A good practice to get into, you got your phone handy, just before you run out on break, stack your chips up into like a very countable form, where you stack your chips in 10s or 20s and in color code, and lay them out there, and take a snapshot with your phone of your chip stack. And then, it's very easy to count them that way. When you come back from break, you can just kind of quickly, look at that, make sure that nobody's, taking something off your chip stack, or you're not missing, because that, 40,000 chips in a tournament that's only got 520 in play is a big deal. It's a real big deal. And it's amazing that I was able to absorb that loss and go ahead and win the tournament anyway. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. So I think what I'll do now is cut over to some hand breakdowns, and I hope you enjoy. With the blind still at 25.50, I raise it up to, let's see here, 300 in the middle position with 9-10 of diamonds. The button calls and under the gun calls. The flop is, let's see here, flop is Jack of diamonds, 3 of diamonds, Queen of hearts. I bet 400. The under the gun checks, I bet 400. Button calls, under the gun calls. The turn is the King of diamonds, bringing me the third nut flush. And the gutter ball to the King high straight flush. Under the gun checks, I bet 1,100. At this point, the button raises to 4,025. Under the gun folds, I raise all in for 14,200, and the button calls with Queen Jack. The river is a deuce of clubs, and we get the full double early in the tournament. Okay, let's see here. This is a few hands later. Blinds are still 25.50. Let's see here. Cutoff raises to 250. I'm in the button with ace 10 off. I call, and the big blind calls. The flop is ace of diamonds, ace of hearts, two of hearts. Ace of diamonds, ace of hearts, two of hearts. The big blind bets 500. The cutoff raises to 2,500. I call, and the big blind calls. Now, this was a weird situation because when I had ace 10 off and the flop comes ace ace deuce, I was liking the flop quite a bit there. I was surprised to see the big blind lead, and then I was really surprised to see the cutoff raised to 2,500. At this point, the big blind checks, the cutoff makes it 7,500. I'm sitting on about 35,000, and the big blind has about 2,000 behind. This is kind of the point of the tournament where I really think made a big impact to what was going to happen afterwards, and I lay down the ace 10, and the big blind calls for all in for the rest of his chips, which was 1,925. The big blind shows queen 10 of hearts. The cutoff shows ace king. The river is 8 of hearts, and the big blind survives the all in and gets a double.